PeterValleyFBAMastery.com. What I'm covering in this video is quite literally mandatory to be successful on Amazon. If you don't understand this, it's almost impossible to be successful as an Amazon seller. So I don't know what I'm gonna end up calling this video. I may end up calling it how to scan books to resell. I may end up calling it how to read data on your scanning app. I'm covering the whole spectrum, but the mechanics of scanning books to resell is very simple, right? I could teach that in 2 seconds, but I'm also gonna go into what settings to enable in your scanning app. That's also something I can cover very quickly. And then most of this video I'm gonna spend on how to actually interpret the data that's in front of you when you scan something to resell. How do you look at the data and understand what to ignore, what to pay attention to, and how to make an intelligent buying decision? This is kind of the secret link for being successful on Amazon. And I see a lot of sellers getting this wrong, so let's get into it. Now, fundamentally, my position in this video is that most sellers overcomplicate this part. They overcomplicate reading the data in their scanning app. So what I'm gonna give you is a no-filler guide to how to read it. However, this is not dumbed down. I'm gonna teach you exactly what I do. But it may ruffle little feathers because a lot of people are gonna argue this is too simplistic. It's very difficult to be successful in any business if there's too much complication and things aren't streamlined. So I'm gonna teach you how to simplify and streamline the process of scanning items, particularly books, to resell. I love this quote. Complexity is the enemy of profits. I don't know who to credit this quote to. I picked this up somewhere. But the fact is that most software, when it comes to Amazon selling, most software in general, whether it's listing software, accounting software, and scanning apps, they over-deliver on features. They give you too much to the point where it becomes a detriment. I want you to look at the screen here. Do you see the screenshot? This is literally a screenshot of Scoutly. I took this from their website. The scanning app I'm gonna be using as reference throughout this video. These are all the different data points that Scoutly will display if you scan a single item. It's kind of insane. Like all the way up to letter Y. Like, I don't see Z, but that's like, what is that? Like 25 different data points. Totally insane. But the reason that software tends to over-deliver is actually not that insane. It kind of makes a lot of sense. And I've run a couple software tools, so I understand how this goes. They have to appeal to everybody, because what happens is if you run a software tool, this happened to me, you get bombarded with requests from your users who are like, I want this, I want this. If you don't give me this, I'm gonna go to another tool. If you don't give me this, I'm gonna go to another tool. So you end up packing your software full of features that are really only useful to a very small percentage of users. And oftentimes the people that request these features don't even use them. They just think they want them. So what happens is, it's called feature bloat, but software just gets crammed with features to the point where sometimes it can become unusable. And I would argue that is what happened to the scouting apps that I've used, at the very least. I can't speak for all of them. But if you look at Scoutly here, this is insane. I mean, how could you even begin to untangle this mess, right? Well, the good news is, what I'm gonna teach you in this video will allow you to look at something like this and streamline it down to just the key 2 or 3 data points. You can ignore the rest, and this will dramatically increase your efficiency and consequently your profits. So right now, a lot of you, if not most of you, are thinking, hold on a second, why do I need to understand data on the scanning app? I've got profit triggers. I just outsource my thinking to the triggers. The triggers tell me what to buy and what to pass on. So if you don't know, triggers are a setting. Most apps have some version of this. They're not always called triggers. Listen, I'm not gonna go into my big speech about triggers again. I am anti using triggers. The last time I went on this rant, I did a whole video and an article on FBAMastery.com. When I was recording the video version, it actually registered as seismic activity on the North Pole. That's how thunderous my rant was. I'm not going to go into it again, but to get the key points out of the way, number one, the reason I'm recommending you don't rely on triggers is that app triggers only measure quantitative data, not qualitative. Number two, your buying criteria isn't static, but triggers are. Number three, this is probably the most important one, they breed Amazon sellers who are totally unable to read data. It basically makes you stupid, okay? And then number four, there's something called the FBA blind spot. I'm not going to go into all this. I've got an article and a video. It's called Stop Using App Triggers. Check it out. You're obviously watching the video after this video is over. Go to the YouTube channel and go find this video. This will give you more information on that. But I'm not gonna recommend triggers in this video at all. In fact, what I'm gonna teach you is will make triggers obsolete. What data do apps like Scoutly show you? I want you to take in this list, you guys. Take it in. FBA prices, merchant fulfilled prices, profit, sales score, fair trade value, trading value, product image, product weight, etc., etc., etc. I got sick of typing. This is not even a full exhaustive list of all the data that Scoutly will show you. I just got tired. I just got bored. Okay. So the question is, do you have to review every single one of these data points before you make a buying decision? The answer is no. In fact, spoiler alert, I'm jumping way ahead in this video, but I'm gonna give a spoiler alert right now. You ready? This data right here, that bolded data, this is the only data I look at. Okay, I'm gonna move on. I don't wanna ruin the punchline here. But the point is, I'm going to streamline all of this down to just 3 data points. Okay, are you guys ready for the 5 steps to go from literally nothing, being asleep or dead or anything, you don't have a pulse, to actually buying an item to resell on Amazon? You ready for this? Okay, before we dive into the 5 steps, let's get this out of the way. My name is Peter Valley. I've been selling on Amazon for over 15 years at this point. I'm a super uncool web guy. I did the site FBAmastery.com. And I spent the first 3 years, fun fact, 3 years as a seller without using a barcode scanner or smartphone or even using any apps. It's kind of insane to think about. That's how I got started, very humble beginnings. This is what I look like. I usually show my face in these videos. For some reason, I think I'm having a bad hair day. I decided to stay invisible in this video. But yeah, I usually look like a colossal doofus. I wave my hands around a lot, and I try to sound really smart, but everyone really knows I'm basically an idiot. But I know a little bit about a few things, including what I'm going to teach you in this video. Got to get this out of the way, you guys. Mandatory. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and head over to FBAmastery.com. You can build a whole business off of what I give away for free between FBAmastery.com, my YouTube channel, all the free reports you see here, free web classes, FBAmastery.com. Head over there, get all my free stuff, and subscribe. Okay, and lastly, I have a more in-depth version of this video in article form. I wrote at FBAmastery.com. I'm able to go into a little more depth than I can in the video, so head over there to check out the article version. Okay, step number 1 of 5 steps. Let's get into it. I'm assuming you have these 4 things. We're laying the groundwork here. Step number 1 is to lay the groundwork. I'm assuming, number 1, you have a smartphone. By the way, if you don't have all 4 of these, at least 3 of them, just get out of this video. Don't even watch it. Okay, you have no business watching this video if you do not have the groundwork laid to put into practice and apply what you're about to learn. You must have a smartphone, number 1. Number 2, you have to have a scanning app. I'm recommending Scoutly in this video. There's others. Okay, number 3, you have to have a Bluetooth scanner. Now, theoretically, you don't need a Bluetooth scanner. I think you're probably insane if you don't have one. I mean, it's almost impossible to imagine doing any kind of volume and sourcing any kind of volume if you don't have a Bluetooth scanner, because then you're using the camera on your phone, which is like so slow as to be almost impossible. Although I have to say, I do have a friend who's doing 5 figures a month and he doesn't even have a scanner. I also think he's completely insane, so I don't recommend it. But the Bluetooth scanner. Number 4, you've got to have your buying criteria. You have to know what your criteria is, because if you're looking at data on an app, it doesn't matter if you, quote, understand the data. If you don't have buying criteria laid out, it's all going to be meaningless. You're just going to be completely gridlocked because you're not going to know how to interpret the data to know what to buy or what not to buy. Okay, so you absolutely must have buying criteria. You must know what profits you need to see. You must know, sales rank. You got to know the basics, right? It's the bare minimum. You got to have buying criteria. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time. And by the way, if you're really new and you don't even understand Amazon sales rank, you don't understand Amazon fees, you don't understand anything, I've got articles on all this stuff at FBAmastery.com. Okay, step number 2. Here's how to set up your app to maximize simplicity. Now, if you didn't know what I'm about to teach you, you're likely to go through all of these settings and just be completely, hopelessly confused. Look at all these settings, you guys. These are literally all the settings in Scoutly. And as a matter of fact, I can tell you for a fact, I got so bored typing these all out that I didn't even type them all out. I think that I included I ran out of space at 24, and I think there's 30 to 40 different settings, okay? So if you know nothing about how to use an app and you look at this, you're just gonna be completely freaked out, okay? So good news. I'm gonna keep this so simple, it's actually probably gonna offend you. You ready for this? The only settings out of these 24, 30, 40 settings that I enable are these 5. That's it. And actually, only one of these is actually really mandatory. It's kind of weird, but I'll just kind of let you take this in, take some notes. But 3 of these shouldn't even be settings at all. They should be default, use your camera. That's if something doesn't have a barcode. You need to use your camera to either scan the ISBN or the cover, right? This shouldn't even be a setting. I don't know why Scoutly doesn't just let you do this by default. Just use your camera. It's just kind of weird. Load balance is just a weird thing. It's just I won't even explain to you what it is, but it should just be enabled by default, but it's not. Disable sound. We're not using triggers, so sound doesn't matter. The background download, another weird technical thing. I won't even explain. It doesn't matter. But the average sales rank is the only one that really, really matters for the purpose of making a buying decision. We'll get to this in a second, but make sure you have at least average sales rank enabled. You could actually uncheck all the rest and still survive just fine. I recommend sales rank and the camera one. The other 3 are just weird technical things that don't even matter that much. Okay. That's it. You guys write these down? Okay, cool. Moving on. Step number 3, your operating mode. Now, this is kind of a setting, but I gave it its own section because it's actually really important. Your operating mode is basically, hey, where does the data come from? Now, you've got 3 options here, or 4 options rather. There's a database mode in Scoutly. It allows you to download the entire database into your smartphone, like almost the entire Amazon database, which is crazy. So there's 4 options here. I'm not going to explain what all of these are. I'm just going to tell you what I recommend. If you don't have an opinion about these, just do what I'm doing. If you do have an opinion, feel free to completely ignore my advice. But what I do is the second one here. Database plus live on not found. So what it means is it's going to use your database. In other words, a downloaded database that you're going to use in Scoutly. It's going to rely on that data. And if it can't find in the database, it's going to do a live lookup in real time using your sell signal. The reason we're going to emphasize the database data is it's so much quicker, you guys, so much quicker. If you have to do a live lookup, like if you chose live only, every single time you scan an item, it's got to make a request all the way to the cell tower, back to Scoutly HQ or whatever, and then come back to your phone. It takes significantly longer. The database is instantaneous. So I strongly recommend database with the live lookup as backup. Okay, step number 3, scan something. Very simple. I don't need to explain the mechanics of this to you, but I'm going to anyway, okay? You aim your scanner at a book's barcode. I'm using books here, by the way, because that's what I specialize in, but what we're learning in this video would apply to any product, okay? You push the button on the barcode scanner, and then it shoots the laser beam out, and then data about your book or whatever it is appears on your app. Really, really simple, okay? Now, here's what we're going to spend most of our time on. Step number 5, how do you read the data and make a decision? Now, I'm going to spend some time on each of these 3, but I'm just going to do the spoiler alert right now. I'm going to teach you. Remember I told you there was I showed you there was 24 different, or it was 25 or whatever, different data points that you can see on the Scoutly app. You ready for this? I only look at 3. For 90 to 98% of the items that I scan, I'm only looking at 3 data points. Remember I said people are going to get mad because they're going to get mad at me for making this too simple. This is what I do. Number 1, merchant fulfilled prices. That's where my eyes go first. I'll expand on this in a second. Number 2, then I look at the average Amazon sales rank. Number 3, I look at FBA prices. I'm an FBA seller. If you're not an FBA seller, you can ignore step number 3 completely. Okay? That's it. That's all I do. Notice there's no Keepa charts. There's no completed eBay listings. There's no noise. 1, 2, 3, and I'm either buying it or passing on it. And I do all of this in under a second. Okay. And this will become a skill you pick up very, very quickly. Okay. So let's expand on each of these. Number 1, when I say step 1, step 2, I mean, that's literally the order that I go in. I let my eyeballs immediately, when I scan it, my eyeballs immediately go to the merchant fulfilled price column. And the reason is this: even though I'm an FBA seller, and even though 100% of my inventory is FBA, it doesn't often matter what the lowest FBA price is. Because if the merchant fulfilled price is high enough, FBA prices are almost always higher than merchant fulfilled. So if the merchant fulfilled price is high enough, I don't care what the FBA price is, because it's only going to be higher than that. So I can just ignore FBA and just boom, throw it in my cart, or immediately run to the counter, or if I decide to shoplift, stuff it down my pants or whatever, right? I can know I'm going to buy the item immediately, okay? I'm joking, by the way. Okay, so that's where my eyes go first. Okay, the only other data point that is absolutely mandatory that you must look at, or that I always look at, is the average Amazon sales rank. And is that figure on the right, the circled figure, but the one on the right. That's average. And they average it out over, I forget if it's 6 months or 12 months. So that gives you a really good idea of how often an item is selling, okay? You can't look at price in a vacuum. You can't look at price in and of itself, because it's not about what the price is. It's about how it relates to the sales rank and how the rank and the price interact. Don't worry, it's not getting complicated here. It's very, very simple, actually. The higher, in other words, the bigger the number, in other words, the worse an item is selling, the worse the sales rank, the higher the price has to be before I'll purchase that item. In other words, the more valuable it has to be, because I have to compensate for my risk. So if an item is selling 1 copy a day, guess what? I'm content making $3 on that item. But guess what? If it's selling once a year, I need to be making $20 or more dollars. See how that works? So that's why it's not exactly how the price is in of itself. It's not exactly what the price is. It's how it relates to the average sales rank. Okay, so I need to look at both of these to make a decision. So then my eyes, number 2, again, they go average sales rank. At that point, a lot of the time, I already know everything I need to know, even though I'm an FBA seller. But if the rank isn't that great, let's say it's like worse than $1 million, then I'm like, you know what? I don't really just only want to compete with FBA offers. I want to compete with merch fulfilled too. Now, step number 3 is to look at the FBA price. If you're not an FBA seller, this is not relevant to you, okay? So I do this in a situation where the merchant fulfilled price doesn't really give me enough room for profit, and the rank is pretty strong. Let's say better than like 1.2 million, like a lower number. If it's ranked better than 1.2 million-ish, there's no hard and fast like science to this, right? It's just a rough number. And the merch fulfilled price is not going to give me the profit that I want. Then I want to look at the FBA price, because again, for items that are in relatively high demand, I'm only competing with the FBA seller, not the merch fulfilled price. So in that case, my eyes might drift over and I'm like, okay. So it's only going to, let's say it's only selling for $10 merch fulfilled. I'm probably going to ignore a book that's only selling for $10 merch fulfilled. But if the FBA price is 30, guess what? I'm a buyer. I'm in. I'm not in at 10. I'm definitely in at 30. Okay. That's why the FBA price is important. And at this point, you guys, we've pretty much covered, out of the 25 different potential data points you can look at, the only 3 that really matter. Now, a lot of you right now, either you've been following some guru that tells you otherwise, or you're just kind of old school and you're kind of stuck in your ways. You might be sitting back and you're really mad right now. You're like, hold on, Peter Valley. I heard from reliable guru sources that I need to look at 23 different data points, and that the process of analyzing a book to resell is so complicated that I have to use triggers to process it all. I don't believe this. To that, I will say, sometimes yes, there are situations where I need to dig deeper, and where I will recommend that you dig deeper than just those 3. So I'm going to give you some examples right now, because it's not always that simple. So some exceptions to what I just covered are, if I'm looking at a book that has no sales rank or a really, really bad sales rank, then by all means, dig a little bit deeper. Look at the Keepa charts. Try to figure out what's the price history. Dig a little bit deeper, okay? Another example where I'll dig deeper is if a book's not found. If it's not showing up in the database or a live search via Scoutly, then I might want to actually try to click over to Amazon, see if I can find that book, because maybe it just means the barcode is pointing to the wrong item. Or there could be many reasons this happens, but I want to maybe I'll Google the UPC. That's something you can do with Scoutly with one click. And I'll try to figure out, okay, what is this item? And I'll try to find the product page for it on Amazon if Scoutly's not showing it to me, okay? Number 3, if there's no offers for sale at all. So then I'll kind of be like, well, have there ever been offers for sale? Maybe the rank's really bad because there's just no supply. And maybe I'll list this for sale and there's a lot of pent up demand. I'll sell for $100 really fast, right? So that can happen. Or if there's just other weirdness, I want to look at Amazon's price to make sure, sometimes if something looks weird, I want to make sure that the price I think I can sell it for isn't higher than Amazon's price, because you can't price higher than Amazon. Or I want to look, hey, is this product in the wrong category? Anytime the data looks kind of weird and just raises some red flags, I might want to dig deeper, okay? But there's not a ton of exceptions. I would estimate between 90 and 98% of the time, I am only looking at those 3 data points I mentioned. That's it. I'm not even digging deeper. There's people that every item, they got to look at the Keepa charts, and it's you can't run a business like that. It's exhausting, and it's too cumbersome to even be profitable. So you might be thinking, hold on a second, you're missing a big one, Peter Valley. What about the profit calculation? You didn't mention that once. There's a feature in every app that calculates your profit after all fees. Why would you not bring this up? Why would you not look at this? So there's 2 reasons. And by the way, I'm not saying you should not have that feature enabled. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's not saying it's the worst thing. I'm not going to argue against it. By the way, I rely on this so little, I don't even know if you can turn this feature off. Okay. You might not be able to turn it off. So maybe it's just always there for everyone in Scoutly all the time. But there's 2 reasons I don't look at this almost ever. Okay. Number 1, you're not always selling at the lowest price. In other words, usually, and it depends how you have your trigger set, but usually it's just spitting out a profit calculation based on the lowest price offer. And yeah, you can set your triggers a different way, but I don't even bother with triggers. I already told you I'm not going to go on that rant, but I don't use triggers. I don't recommend you use triggers. So the point is, you're not always selling at the lowest price. Sometimes you are going to be selling at the lowest price. Sometimes you're going to be selling the second lowest. Sometimes the third lowest, and you're not going to be changing your triggers every single book. It's insane, right? So it just doesn't make sense to rely blindly on the profit calculation, because it's not always going to be representative of what your actual profit's going to be. Number 2, you should understand how Amazon fees work. It's pretty much the bare minimum that you should be expected to do as an Amazon seller, is have a rough understanding of how the fees work. In other words, roughly, if you got a book in your hand and it's, the lowest price is $12, you should understand roughly what that translates to in terms of your payout. So you shouldn't need an app to tell you this. You should basically just have it down to like, okay, what are the rough fees for a really small book, the rough fees for a medium book, and the rough fees for a really big, heavy book. That's basically all I do. And close enough is close enough. You don't need to have it exact. Of course, it's impossible to do that mentally. You can't pick up a book and know exactly what the weight is, right? Because that factors into the fees. So the point is, yes, personally, I do leave my profit calculation enabled, but I almost never look at it. And it's not very useful. And honestly, you shouldn't rely on it too much. How to read ScanApp data. Step number 1, look at the merchant fulfill price. Step number 2, look at the average Amazon sales rank. Step number 3, look at the FBA prices under certain conditions. And that's basically it, you guys. So you guys have a 3-part mission right now. Are you ready for what your mission is? Mission number 1, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Do it immediately. If you got any value out of this video, you're gonna get way more value about my other videos. So subscribe to my YouTube channel right now. Mission number 2, head over to FBA Mastery. Get all my free stuff. Everything you see here, you can build a whole business off of what I give away for free at fbamastery.com. Mission number 3, take what you learned in this video and don't just look at it as, oh, that was some entertaining thing I watched one day. Put it into practice. Go make money with it. Otherwise, our time here is wasted. That's it, you guys. This is Peter Valley signing off. I'll catch you in the next video.